Joining us is Gunther, our AI analyst.
A nickname German Bill Gates. For small businesses, this type of solution is very expensive.
Their target market projection of 200 million small businesses appears highly optimistic.
It becomes clear why they were losing money 2 years in a row.
All features they have offered are the same features that traditional industry is offering. Investigating journalism in the house.
Welcome to Startup Sluts, where we keep it real. No sugar-coated stories, just the raw deal.
They were supposed to be the next SAP. 36 million in funding. 200 million potential customers. Filed for insolvency.
Another German startup files for insolvency despite millions in funding. How does this keep happening? They had the perfect pitch, the investors were all in, but where did the money go?
Why do seemingly perfect startups with millions in funding still fail? Welcome to the last episode of Startup Sluts this year. And today we're going back to our original name and dissecting the startups that failed. We'll talk about the most interesting cases and go behind the perfect picture of pitch decks and PR statements.
I'm Ksenia, and here is Mary, and you might ask, why do they speak about startups, who they are? And we are also founders of a startup in mental health domain, as well as we have background in social and political sciences, because we have finished one of the best universities in Germany. So we know how to analyze the data and provide conclusions.
And very special today, joining us is Gunther, our AI analyst, who processes thousands of startup data points to find patterns that humans might not see and miss.
So stay tuned with us, because we believe that every failure has a story to tell.
So today our first case study is Enfore. It's a Berlin-based tech company that recently filed for insolvency. And they had an ambitious vision. They wanted to create a comprehensive business platform for small business enterprises. And where they also went one step further, they wanted to combine hardware and software solutions.
I find very interesting about the startup also that they gained the nickname like their second SAP. And of course, very interesting is about this startup that they got a very big funding, 80 million euros. And yeah, I think it's time to ask Gunther, can you break down what Enfore was trying to achieve actually with their startup, with their solution and with their idea?
Based on my analysis, Enfore developed a modular business platform consisting of Enfore Dasher, a standardized POS system, Enfore PayPad, payment terminal hardware, Enfore POS, business logic customized for specific sectors. The system was designed to handle online reservations, inventory management, point of sale, and ordering systems for small businesses.
Thank you very much, Gunther. It's very insightful. I think very interesting part is about their market approach, especially their target audience, because they ain't small businesses, but the complexity of their product is more about big enterprises. And yes, it's exactly what concerns me, like these very, very big numbers. So of course, I would like to ask once again our expert Gunther, what do you think about these very big numbers, like 200 million of small enterprises was the target audience of Enforce?
Their target market projection of 200 million small businesses appears highly optimistic based on available data. This matches a pattern I've observed where startups overestimate their serviceable addressable market. In reality, They only managed to implement their system in a few test locations.
You know what also comes in my mind by listening to you, Gunther, is that I think that those numbers could tell only founders who have a very successful track record, because obviously they are over optimistic, but the personality of the founder of Enfore is very interesting. This man, he has built already two very successful companies like Star Office and Vedi Soft, and he also, for example, had a nickname German Bill Gates. So yeah, I think that investors have trusted him more easily than other founders who have less successful businesses, and it helped him to sell these very big, very crazy numbers. Actually, 200 million of small enterprise is very too much, I think, for one company.
But I think overall it's a pattern you can observe, that like the probability that investors will invest in the new enterprises is much, much higher when you have already developed and sold few successful companies, in this case two, and they were sold to Sun Microsystems and Yahoo, so big names. So investors might be less likely to scrutinize your business idea and go in deep details and ask questions, because in this case with Enfore there were investors from founder of Xing and investors from Facebook, so you kind of also expect them to understand the numbers in that sense, but No one questioned the numbers if they were over realistic or not. And also a great question, an interesting one, is their partnership strategy.
I think it's very interesting also because having as a partner Deutsche Telekom also gave the investors this feeling that the company will achieve their goals. They have created, or they have planned to create the solution, Magneta Business POS. And on paper, it should work very cool because a major distribution channel should be or was Deutsche Telekom, because they have planned through Deutsche Telekom, they will reach their target audience. But I think we might see here also some challenges, and Gunther will highlight us what challenges.
The data shows this follows a common pattern in B2B SaaS failures. Relying heavily on a single large distribution partner often leads to loss of direct market feedback, reduced visibility at industry events, slower adaptation to market needs, increased dependence on the partner's sales cycle.
Thank you, Gunther, for your insights. As always, very interesting and
informative.
Informative, exactly. And now I would love to talk a bit about the solution. To be more precisely, the plan was to create software and hardware, and I think that it was the solution for big enterprises, and for small businesses this type of solution is very expensive to pay, because you don't pay only for software, you need also pay for hardware, and it's two problems on the business side and on the customer side. On the business side, you need to invest much more money on developing software and hardware, and then as a small business you need to pay for both. It's something what only big businesses can allow themselves because they have budget for it, and I can't imagine that small business like small grocery or coffee shop, something like this, they have money to pay for both parts.
Yeah, it's an interesting point also to ask Gunther. How does this compare to successful companies in this space?
Analyzing successful point-of-sale solutions for small businesses, they typically follow a simpler, more focused approach. Start with a single, well-defined problem, build a minimal viable solution, scale gradually based on user feedback, add complexity only as demanded by the market.
Yeah, thanks again, Gunther. I think we can say openly that it was something too complicated and sophisticated for the target audience they chose.
I agree with you. And we can do some also comparison, like sum up of the comparison. What was the main difference? Like by SIP, their main focus was enterprise financial accounting, and they started with big companies, and also they started only with software solution. What also interesting and what we haven't mentioned yet about Enfore, they have told that they like 200 million companies, it's a lot, so they decided to go internationally at the very beginning, and it might be also a big burden for companies to start generating the revenue. And in comparison, SAP started with one market, and of course, as I mentioned, Enfore haven't done it. They decided to create very comprehensive, complicated solution, including hardware and software, also payment system.
Yeah, I overall think from our experience too that it's always better to start smaller and preciser in your targeting the market or creating the product, and then slowly grow on it. First of all, because you learn what your audience wants and needs when you already have a product with them, and you base then you invest your time and money into that direction. It's too much to start with everything everywhere all at the same time. So I think that's a great lesson for every founder, for every small startup, to start like with very niche and small target.
Yeah, it's something what we are not talking about right now, but the problem with not understanding your own customers might also occur. Every time if your business doesn't work, either you can't deliver the idea for your customers, or you don't talk with your customers and you don't know what they actually want and need. And you have mentioned us, because I think it's also a great example, the issue we have had with a lot of investors and just people who are interested in our product, that they have thought that we want to create too much, because the idea was that we not only want to have an AI agent for mental health support, but also a platform for psychologists. It means like all in one solution, all inclusive. And I feel like there is some overlap with the problem, with our problem and Enfore's problem, that both companies wanted to create too much, but they have 80 million euros and we have not, so we don't know.
Yeah, because it all sounds very good on paper. Of course, even for customers to go to one place, one software, one solution that gives you everything you might need.
But the price for sure for these solutions is also rising. To sum up, we see 4 critical mistakes that they have done. First and foremost, of course, overambitious market projection, too complex product, and starting with too many markets instead to start with one market, to become like a strong leading company on one market, or at least like to be sure that you have customers, it generates revenues, and instead of starting big and very international. And of course, obviously product market fit issues are here too.
Alright folks, I've got a funny diamond situation to share. You know what always happens right after you film an episode? That's when the good stuff rolls in, of course, and that's exactly what happened here. We slid into the DMs of Alex, one of the Lengoo's founders, and wouldn't you know it, he actually replied. So, next in the episode, we'll dive into all possible reasons why Lengoo ended up with the insolvency. So stay tuned to learn what we've uncovered and discussed. And later also we've thought about ways company can use insolvency to potentially benefit their company, like restructuring. Well, it turns out detective work wasn't too far off, and Alex confirmed they are working on restructuring before the Alpha startup acquisition. And speaking of Alpha, let me give you very quick context here. It's another German startup that's been making waves in the AI world. They were actually seen as Germany's secret weapon in AI, even partnering with Bavaria's digital ministry. But lately, they've been making headlines to less exciting reasons. It seems like they're falling behind their competitors technically. And this might explain why they are now on a shopping spree for other AI startups. So, before we deep dive into Lengoo's situation, now is a perfect moment to push that follow button, leave a comment, or at least give us a thumbs up. We are always looking for your feedback to make our content even better, so help us shape future episode as our co-creator in some way. And this way you also make us a perfect Christmas gift. Otherwise, we'll be your Grinch.
Another day, another startup we're going to discuss. And today we are talking about Lengoo. It's another Berlin-based startup that sadly this year went into insolvency. And I think before we jump into analyzing why it happened, I'm gonna give a brief overview of what Lengoo did overall and does. So Lengoo is a technology company that developed specialized AI translation system for enterprise customers, and it has 3 founders and was founded in 2014 by Philipp Koch-Büttner, Christopher Krenzler and Alexander Giga. And the company positioned itself as an innovative player in the translation industry.
Yeah, but what exactly they are doing, I think Gunther can tell us. Aren't you, Gunther?
Sure. Technology innovation. Their key technological differentiator was a self-improving AI translation system that created customized language models for each client, incorporated client-specific terminology and style preferences, learned continuously from human translator corrections, integrated clients' existing documents and websites into the training data, claimed to be 3 times faster than competitors like Google Translate and DeepL business model. The company positioned itself between traditional translation services and generic AI translation tools by offering enterprise-grade translations, providing faster turnaround than traditional services, maintaining higher quality than generic translation tools, ensuring consistency across all company communications, delivering customized solutions for each client's specific needs.
Thank you, Gunther. I think it is important for us and during our analysis to address one misconception, and especially regarding the main competitors of Lengoo. I think there is some different competitors they have had during or at the beginning of their journey in 2014 and later. Because in 2014, as a rule, it is told that their main competitor was Google Translator. The deal is that Google Translator was not as well as and advanced as today, and they were more for B2C, for direct customers. The deal is that also Google is such a huge company that they actually don't really need sales teams. So if you are an enterprise and if you have a great sales team, you still can sell your product, especially if it is more advanced. And coming back to Lengoo, who were the main competitors in 2014, it was traditional translation industry, because generally speaking, all features they have offered for their customers are the same features that traditional industry is offering. But of course, with AI, it is faster.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a different competitor market now than it was in the beginning of their journey. I think the translation industry still stays as like one of the main competitors, but early 2020, DeepL also became one of their main competitors because it also is an AI translation system and also focusing on B2B, like offering B2B solution.
Yeah, in comparison, they have also for customer solution and for enterprises. But I truly believe that they earn their main money, of course, with B2B.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to compare these two because you can really see the distinction between them. So what for Lengoo offered custom AI models for each client. And it requires which means that it requires higher operational cost per customer. And it's a very resource-intensive scaling. And plus what Lengoo did, they had additional layer of human.
Yes, and it's very expensive. Everywhere where you add in the loop human beings, the price is rising.
Yeah, of course. And the DeepL in comparison has developed one core AI model serving all customers without having an additional layer of human being. And it meant that they could scale faster. The costs were much lower for them and for their customers too. So, like to sum up, what DeepL did maybe better in that sense for their future success was having a lower acquisition costs, having no human translator overheads, and offering automated service delivery.
During the analysis, we have also seen a very interesting pattern with Lengoo, which we call technical excellence trap. Because as Mary mentioned, the technology is very advanced because they created very customized models with a human being in the loop. It means that people even improved the answers of the AI, but it doesn't mean that it's for surely a successful story in the product creation, because as we can see, their funding was like 36 million and their losses in the 2021 7.8 million. And later, it was already 14.9 million euros the next year. It means that each year they were losing like around 7 million euros. And it's very interesting because obviously the problems wasn't seen. Otherwise, how you can lose the same amount of money the next year? It would be really interesting to ask someone from Lengoo, have they seen that they are losing the next year the same amount of money? Have they identified the problem or not? It's really interesting, and it's really very sad because during our research we haven't seen any comments from founders, for example, on the internet.
I have seen a comment from an employee who actually worked in sales team.
Investigating journalism in the house.
Yeah, it's very important to find as many comments as possible, and how they said it, it was not that surprising. So I think some problems were seen, but maybe not recognized by the heads of the company.
Yeah. So we can see that they have strong technology. They have had significant funding, but obviously they also had unsustainable unit economics. And our expert in everything nowadays can explain us what exactly is unsustainable unit economics. Gunther, your showtime.
Unit economics is essentially the fundamental mathematical equation of business. The relationship between what you spend on each customer and what you get back from them. Let me break this down analytically. Unit economics has two core components. Customer acquisition cost, CAC, the cost of acquiring a customer. Customer lifetime value, CLV, the total revenue you expect to earn from a customer over their entire relationship with the business. When we talk about unsustainable unit economics. We're looking at a situation where this equation is fundamentally broken.
Yeah, I believe Gunther is right, telling the truth as always, it becomes clear because despite their technical advantages, they really struggled with what we call an enterprise sales scaling paradox, which means that acquiring customer is much more expensive for you than the cost the amount they bring. So then it becomes clear why they were losing money 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Nevertheless, we have found also an interview with one of founders, and it's obvious that they're big professionals because the way he was selling his or their product is fascinating. I would love to read a question and the answer. The interviewee asked, "How does your software differentiate itself from conventional translation services through the use of AI?" And the Lengoo responded, "First, the use of AI makes us faster. It's obvious. And second, we ensure that the customer's language remains consistent in every translation. Traditional providers simply cannot offer this. Multiple translators typically work there for one client, and because people are different, the results end up being different too." It's fascinating. It's fascinating because it demonstrates how people can sell their product, their idea, and make small their main competitor. Why I believe and why I'm saying this, because in 2008, from 2008 till 2012, I was studying translation, and I have the understanding of this industry. And to be honest, let's start with may I deliver results faster? Yes, it's true, but they ensure that the customer's language remains consistent in every translation. It's also true for traditional industry, because back then we also have had already tools which help translators to have these terminology management systems. Professional translation agencies, they also have style guides and glossaries for their customers. It means that they can offer the same result each time. And of course, there are also quality assurance processes which allow this consistency in their translation. But nevertheless, I think founders should learn how you can promote your solution and how you can make small your competitors. It doesn't sound very bad that you are telling my competitors are bad. You're telling no. Generally speaking, I offer the same features, but I'm better.
Yeah, that's a really great example of being a great salesperson, but also a great example that being a great salesperson is not maybe enough, and maybe that's also something that led to the downfall in that sense of the very promising company at the beginning, because they were maybe solving a problem that was already solved and selling something as a very innovative that already existed.
We want to believe that they will do maybe some restructuring process and they will come back as a phoenix from ashes.
Very interesting, because the difference, how it's perceived in Germany and US, for example, the insolvency and the bankruptcy.
Yeah, for sure, because in America it is often used to restructure the company, and it doesn't seem as a fail. It's something normal, and even if you come into bankruptcy, people see you as a successful founder, as a successful company. And in Germany, companies try to postpone the bankruptcy or insolvency as much as possible, because it's seen like the end of the company, and actually we knew only few companies which came back in the game.
Yeah, from insolvency, because it also, of course, depends on the reasons why the companies went into insolvency, but it gives a great opportunity to restructure and maybe completely change approach and don't see, even if it does not happen, don't see it as a failure. That's our mission goal, to prove that insolvency or bankruptcy is not a fail, but
a learning process.
Yeah,
not for investors who have lost their money.
Yeah, but as we always say in our podcast, every failure is a learning point.
Learning point. I agree with you completely. And I think we can finish our episode on this very cheering and positive note.
Yeah, and I think that's it, as you said, for today, and that's it for this year from us. And I think we already have a plan for the next year, and the next year maybe we'll start with something more cheerful and success stories.
Success stories, yeah. For example, like DeepL startup, because they really have a very interesting story, I think, and because they also AI, and it is very close to our heart about what we like to talk. So yes, stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. But until then, we wish you great holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Your Startup Sluts.